everyone, back with another video. Today I'm doing another response video, except this time it is to Anomaly Inc and his Mandalorian video, because for those who do not know, I've already done a response to this guy, and I was on Battlefront 2, except this time it will be on The Mandalorian, specifically episode 3 of season 2. Now I feel I should state this again, much like I did in my previous video regarding Anomaly Inc. I like the guy, I like his content, and I really respect him as well. And I'm just making this video because I personally disagree with what he said. That is all. This is not an attack on the guy. It's just, again, stuff that I personally disagree with. I'm not calling him a Star Wars criminal, nor am I calling him a toxic Star Wars fan. Now, in regards to that video, I'm aware that Anomaly Inc actually did see it, as he mentioned it in one of his streams. I think it was like a Cosmonaut Spider-Man stream. And he also did comment on my video as well, which I really do appreciate. Anyways, the point is he saw my video, and he did do kind of a response in the stream, and he brought up some of the stuff that I said, and he mentioned that I misunderstood some of his arguments, and I want to make clear I am kind of an idiot, so if I misunderstand some stuff he says in this video, that might be why, or either way, it makes me an idiot, I don't know. Chances are I will get stuff wrong in some of these videos, so I do appreciate that he mentioned that I did misunderstand stuff. I will be using, like, kind of little bits and pieces from his comment on my video that he made in that stream, and they will be out of context, so at the end of the video, at like the very end, I will play the full clip in context, that way you guys can see what it actually said. Now, as for the video I'm covering today, it is about The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3, or Chapter 11, I forgot. Also, one more thing, I will be incorporating most or all of his video in my response, that way I can get things in full context in case there's something that I did miss, and then it would make me seem like an even more idiot, but I don't want to seem malicious with this video, because it's not the intent, so yeah. That's kind of the new style that I've been doing these response videos, just incorporating almost the entire video, that way I can get the context. Also, for those curious, no, I have not made a video on The Mandalorian Season 2 yet. I will make a review when the entire season is out, but I'm not doing episode reviews because I simply do not care to. Now, for those who care about my opinion, okay, shit, really good, and really good. Also, at the time of recording this video, it is the Saturday after episode 4 of Mandalorian Season 2 came out. Also, stay till the end of the video for if you want channel information about my YouTube channel. No shit. Because the 1 year anniversary of my channel is coming up, so stay till the end if you're interested in that. And yeah. Anyway, let's get into the video. Sit back, eat your blue cookies, and watch some shitty Doom Eternal gameplay.
Well, Mando and the Green Monkey Goblin are back in The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3. As many of you may well know, I've been less than impressed with the latest 2 entries in the series. The first episode of Season 2 was kind of a train wreck, but it possessed a few good qualities, including the introduction of the Marshal, some more world building, a longer runtime, that's a big one, and some decent action, I'll admit. The second episode was completely and utterly pointless, with some good direction and some okay humor. And also as a bonus, we got some more information on the New Republic and their Galactic Border Patrol, which I thought was nice, but otherwise, it was kind of a writing disaster.
Yes, episode 2 of season 2 is really garbage, in my opinion at least, but saying it's completely and utterly pointless is just wrong. It's what starts the plot for them to be able to start searching for Jedi as well as other Mandalorians, as it's what sends Boba Fett on the quest to go get Bo-Katan, which sends him on the quest to go get Ahsoka Tano. Most of it was filler, which was pretty annoying, and that's one of the reasons that I actually hate the episode, but I wouldn't say the episode is completely and utterly pointless.
And now we have Chapter 11, the third episode of Season 2, titled The Heiress, and I maybe, sort of, kind of, possibly, unbelievably, didn't entirely hate it. But what's kind of pissing me off is seeing everyone lose their minds over this episode like it's the second coming of Lucas, and all of this mass hysteria and excitement came for one reason and one reason only, because the Mandalorian character known as Bo-Katan from Star Wars Rebels and the Star Wars Clone Wars name-dropped fan-favorite character Jedi Master Ahsoka Tano. As if that in any way, shape, or form makes this episode amazing.
No, this is literally factually untrue, for most people at least. Yes, a lot of people do enjoy the episode or love it for some reason because of Ahsoka's name drop. But the main reason a lot of people love it was because of Bo-Katan. Also, not simply that, it's the fact of the casting for it. It's the fact that they got Katie Sackhoff, is I think how you pronounce it. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. I probably did. But the fact that they casted her. The reason people are excited about this and the reason people love it is because she's the same actress, or voice actress, I guess, who plays Bo-Katan in the Star Wars Clone Wars and Rebels TV shows. She looked and sounded and acted the part because she already had experience with the character. After this is giving more people reason to be fearful of Ahsoka Tano and Rosario Dawson's casting because Ashley Eckstein is not playing Ahsoka Tano, despite Ashley Eckstein apparently being vocal how she wished to portray Ahsoka and many fans wishing that she would also portray Ahsoka Tano. And as for voicing, well, this is something that I'm kind of glad they did as well, because Darth Maul in Solo kind of sucked. One of the reasons was because of the fact that they had Sam Witwer voice Darth Maul in the Solo film, but they had Ray Park play him. Like, they had Ray Park do the physicality of just sitting his ass in a chair, but they for some reason did the overlay audio and had a literal overlay of Sam Witwer saying the lines. This is actually true, and it's really bizarre to me. Just either have Ray Park do it or have Sam Witwer do it. And I'm glad that they didn't do that with this. It's stuff like this which is one of the many reasons why I hate that scene in Solo and why it's just so stupid.
I love Ahsoka, just like all of you, trust me. But name dropping her doesn't accomplish anything. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't actually see her until the last episode of the season.
Granted, this could be because of the people that I follow and see on my timeline on Twitter, but literally no one ever said the episode was good simply because they name dropped Ahsoka. Everyone who I've seen mentions Ahsoka's name drop in the episode. They say that's just what gets them excited for the later episodes in the season. They never said that that's what made the episode automatically good. And as for her, for you thinking that she'll be in the last episode, I have to disagree. Mostly because the fact that episode 5 of season 2 is being directed by Dave Filoni, and that's the episode that a lot of people are saying Ahsoka Tano will be in, and I think that's what it is as well. And the reason people loved Ahsoka's name drop, or most people at least, wasn't it? That's not what a lot of people said made the episode good. That's what got a lot of people excited for the later episodes of the season. I stuttered so hard there, Jesus Christ.
So they can bait the next one, which of course they will. We saw the Boba Fett tease, remember? 2 episodes later, what did that accomplish? I'm still waiting. Look, this episode wasn't god awful, and it wasn't great either, but it was perfectly fine. It was fine.
I don't want this stunted slime in my sight again.
And that's all, okay? And I'll explain why, but make no mistake, a mediocre episode is still a massive step up from the previous 2 episodes and the majority of season 1. So we're on the right track. I'll say that much. Anyway, let's begin with the opening. I actually thought it was really solid. A tense, atmospheric re-entry that follows up on the events from the previous episode. I like the touch of humor it added onto the end of the landing, resulting with Mando crashing in the water. Good stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too, but it was actually a reference to one of Ron Howard's films, Apollo 13, as this episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who is obviously Ron Howard's daughter, and she had a reference to that, and she even confirmed this on Twitter.
And without having to explicitly tell us, this episode makes it clear that Trask, the moon which they've landed on, is heavily abundant with the Mon Calamari, Admiral Akbar's species, and the reasoning perhaps is because it looks primarily like a water planet. And because of how abundant the Mon Calamari are on this moon, it's also possible that the moon itself is controlled by the Mon Calamari. But that's just me speculating. I like to appreciate the visual world-building details where I can, and this is what I've interpreted from what we see in the introduction to Trask. Anyway, Mando pays an engineer, well, more specifically, a Mon Calamari engineer, at the ship docks to fix up his broken vessel as best they can. And when I say ship docks, I mean literal ship docks, not a spaceship dock.
Well, yeah, but the planet is inhabited by the Mon Calamari, who are indeed very connected to the water and stuff, and they usually do live in the water, and this is reinforced in the Clone Wars show, because again, they do usually live in the water, so there wouldn't be much spaceship docks, mostly just water docked, because of the fact that they mostly live in water in the first place.
Sorry I had to make the distinction because this is Star Wars after all, and he's landed at a port which also has sailing vessels, which, fair enough. Moments later, and what luck! The fish mother passenger that Mando was escorting immediately identifies her husband that's just been waiting for her on these docks, like he knew when and where she was going to be there, despite them having no communication whatsoever, and once again, in what's becoming vintage Mandalorian at this point.
They are husband and wife, and they live on a planet together on this moon. They literally live on a planet. I don't know if it's a moon or not, but they live on a planet together. They live together, as we see later that they are at a house, and it's heavily implied that they are not like newly moving in together. They have been together for a while. So I'm pretty sure that the lady frog thing would obviously know where her husband lives. I don't think that's hard to assume. I could probably be talking out of my ass, though.
This episode jumpstarts its plot by sheer ludicrous convenience, because they once again drop the episode's runtime from 50 minutes to 30 minutes, just like the previous episode, and in order to achieve what they need to in this rushed time slot, characters and encounters just happen out of thin air, so that everyone meets each other, everyone gets to where they need to be, and everyone quickly knows what they are doing.
Please do enlighten me. Oh yeah, also ear rape warning.
Thankfully, this only happens in the first half of the episode, and not the second. The fish husband thanks Mando, and he asks him where he can find others of his kind, other Mandalorians. The fish husband leads him to a nearby inn where someone can direct him, but this ultimately proves to be inconsequential and entirely pointless, because one of the Mandalorian squad members that Mando is soon to find is watching him on the docks, as it cuts to WWE's Sasha Banks, who's watching him curiously. He spots her for a moment and then she mysteriously vanishes. Okay, again, convenience much? Exactly who Mando needs to find is just waiting for him exactly where he is. Exactly where he arrives, on this random planet in the galaxy.
I'll agree. I think that this is a valid criticism, and I do think with an extended runtime, this could have been fixed, and they could have taken away the convenience.
Which means, in actuality, Mando didn't even need the fish husband's assistance, because the quote-unquote help he receives from the inn ultimately sends him on a wild goose chase.
No, the fuck? He still needed help from the frog creature. If it wasn't for the frogs, he would have never been at that planet in the first place, which is where he found Bo-Katan. What? And he would have never gone to that planet if the wife never mentioned how the husband knew that Mandalorians were there, because everyone knew that Beskar Mandalorians were there on that moon. He just didn't specifically know where they were, but he knew they were at that place.
Mando enters the inn and finds a Mon Calamari, and it's worth mentioning that there's a small payoff from the pilot episode, where he provides the calamari flan he was given by Apollo Creed for the first job we saw him take. He uses the currency to barter for information. The Mon Calamari innkeeper says he's seen Beskar wearers come through there before, which would make sense, since Beskar's a rare metal and Mandalorians are all but extinct, but they always wear their helmets. Well, mostly, but we'll get to that. Point is, if he's seen Mandalorians, he's sure to remember them. Point is, if he's seen Mandalorians come through there, he's sure to identify them by their Beskar armor. And then he directs Mando to a boatman who can take him where he needs to go, which, as I said, was pointless because Sasha Banks and Bo-Katan could have approached Mando before he got on the boat, since they knew who he was.
I will agree with this argument as well. I find it really odd why they didn't just walk up to him in the bar or anything. Maybe they didn't trust him or something. I don't know. I always thought that was kind of weird, and it could have skipped to like 5 to 10 minutes of the episode.
Anyway, on the boat, Mando watches as the crew fish for some kind of water sarlacc monster. The captain wants to show the creature to Baby Yoda, so he opens up the water cage below and Mando actually allows Baby Yoda to get pushed into the pit. Is Mando just prone to being ambushed? You'd figure as a lifelong bounty hunter he'd be able to smell a trap approaching. But yeah.
Okay, he didn't let Baby Yoda get pushed in. He was surprised by it. He didn't want Baby Yoda getting pushed in. He was simply surprised by it. But as for like him being too trusting and stuff, I will agree. Mandalorian's intelligence changes like the tide, like the ocean tides if the moon was fucking blown up. His intelligence constantly changes, and it's annoying because it always creates fake tension. Also, yes, I understand that I am reinforcing some of his criticisms, even though the point of this is to defend the episode, but I feel like I should give credit where credit is due, or else that will make me look like an ass or something. I don't know. I just feel like I should give credit where credit is due.
Baby Yoda is knocked into the water pit. Thankfully, he's able to close his metal capsule as he gets swallowed, and as a result of this, he isn't immediately killed. Mando jumps in to try and save the creature, and he is locked in the water cage by the boatmen who apparently want the Beskar from Mando's corpse. Again, you'd figure Mando would be used to this by now. People trying to take advantage from him to scavenge his body and take his armor or his weapons or his valuables. Has a life of bounty hunting taught him nothing? Can we please have one episode, just one, where Mando isn't an idiot?
I agree with this. Like I said earlier, his intelligence changes like the fucking ocean tides if the moon was blown up. I don't think Din Djarin's intelligence is like he's always dumb. My problem with his intelligence is it always changes and it's very inconsistent.
Please. But all of a sudden, a blue Mandalorian and her squad mates arrive on the ship via their jetpacks, and an action sequence breaks out that was honestly pretty fun to watch. After freeing Mando and saving Baby Yoda, the leader takes off her helmet and reveals herself to be Bo-Katan from Star Wars Rebels and the Star Wars Clone Wars. Mando is shocked. In his eyes, this is a severe break of the Mandalorian custom. Unsurprisingly, Mando thinks these three Beskar-wearing individuals are much like the Marshal from back in Chapter 9. As soon as the Marshal took off Boba Fett's helmet, Mando was ready to kill him for the armor because he perceived him not to be a Mandalorian. Similarly, he perceives Bo-Katan to be an imposter, posing as a Mandalorian who's dishonoring the name. For those in the audience who haven't seen the Clone Wars, we've only seen the Mandalorians through the eyes of Pedro Pascal's character, a foundling whose family was killed in the Clone Wars and adopted into a society of warriors that abide by a strict creed. One such custom is never removing your helmet in front of strangers. Bo-Katan insists that she's of Mandalorian blood and grew up on the Mandalorian homeworld before the Purge. And I love this piece of world building because while she distinguishes herself as a Mandalorian and what clan she comes from, she refers to Mando as a child of the Watch, which distinguishes herself from him, and makes it clear that not all Mandalorians are the same. Now, this is far more comprehensible if you've seen the Clone Wars, except they are more specifically called the Death Watch. However, I still think this scene does a decent job of explaining while showing us even more visual details without dialogue. However, what did confuse me is that Bo-Katan wouldn't refer to them as the Death Watch, since by all accounts I've heard, she in fact actually was a part of them at one point. Either she refers to them as the Watch because it's a more casual reference for her personally, since she was once a part of their group. Perhaps calling them Death Watch is more of the outsider's term, or perhaps the showrunners worded it that way so that the audience could connect the dots themselves.
Yeah, that was what she was talking about, as a child of the Watch, because we do find out in the first season that he was indeed taken in by the Death Watch in that flashback. Also, yes, that was a long clip of Anomaly Inc's video. I know.
While it doesn't make much sense that Bo-Katan wouldn't call them by their full name, I understood what she was talking about because of how she described them, as I'm sure many of you did. I don't know. Look, to reiterate, I like what they did, I just think the way they did it was kind of bizarre. Personally, as someone who started watching the Clone Wars after watching The Mandalorian Season 1, I was very much confused to see the way Mandalorian society functions on their homeworld. It was much more elegant and peaceful.
Yes and no. The reason that it was so peaceful was because of the fact that they had Satine as their new kind of like ruler, I guess. And Satine is, I forgot what it was called, fuck, I'm stupid. But yeah, she was basically someone all about peace and stuff, so she wanted to avoid war as much as possible. And that's one of the reasons that Death Watch was created, and Mandalorian did add to that, as it gave us more reason.
Death Watch, as Bo-Katan explains in this episode, were the extremists, a rogue cult dedicated to the ancient customs of Mandalore. It honestly didn't fully hit me until this scene, in fact, that it was a fragment of Death Watch that took Mando in as a foundling, which explains why, unlike most Mandalorians, he lives by such a strict creed. This scene also illustrates very well, mind you, the level of indoctrination he's had by the Death Watch since they took him in as a child. Mando is astonished that any other Mandalorian would dare break these customs so casually. And it also goes to show that not all Mandalorians think alike or have the same creed. Kind of like how not all Christians are the same. Some Christianity followers have a very strict set of guidelines, for example, marriage before sex, church every Sunday, and prayer before feasts. However, others, while still being Christianity followers, don't abide by these customs, or rather they have looser guidelines. Bo-Katan comes from a tribe with a long lineage, and her armor has been passed down from generation to generation, but she's not bound by the customs of hiding her identity to strangers. More specifically, and you wouldn't know this unless, again, you've watched the Clone Wars, her last name ties her to the Mandalorian Duchess, making Bo-Katan tied to the royal bloodline. I'm willing to give the show the benefit of the doubt that perhaps they will explain that in a later episode, but you can gather that she is something akin to royalty based on her motivations and goals, which are revealed later in this episode.
Now, there are kind of spoilers. Because from what I can tell, it seems like you don't know that's 100% confirmed. So there are kind of Clone Wars spoilers, I guess. But yes, Bo-Katan is kind of uh in like the royalty bloodline, as she is Satine's sister, and she is kind of meant to become the ruler of Mandalore, which is why in this episode she wants the dark saber. That way she can rule it, and also because at the end of season 7 of Clone Wars and at the end of Rebels, she becomes the ruler of Mandalore, and then after she somehow loses the throne, and they never explain that. She's lost it twice now. Jesus fuck, maybe she isn't a good ruler.
But we'll get to that. Also, one extra snag. Bo-Katan is meant to be in her 60s, and this actress looks to be in her late 30s, early 40s, which is a huge continuity error.
No, Bo-Katan's probably in her 50s, at most in her 50s in season 2 of Mandalorian, because she's about 25 or so at the end of Clone Wars, which means that 25 plus 19, as there's a 19-year gap between the prequels and the OT, along with the 5-year gap between Mandalorian and the OT, that make her about 49, which means that she's obviously in her late 40s, and she's almost in her 50s. Now, I don't know her exact age, but she's at most 30 around the time of the Clone Wars ending. So either way, she'd still be in her early 50s or late 40s. Also, yes, I am now using Force Unleashed gameplay rather than Minecraft gameplay because Anomaly Inc. Well, he said.
Also, why Minecraft?
You did this to me, Anomaly. You did this to me.
Not to mention, would a woman in her 60s be flying around in Mandalorian armor into gunfights and be as acrobatically nimble as Bo-Katan was in this episode? Yeah, I don't think so. And to drive this point even further, the Boba Fett reveal showing a very old Tamara Morrison returning is also inaccurate because Boba Fett in this continuity looks older than Bo-Katan does, despite the fact that in the timeline, Boba Fett would be in his late 30s, with Bo-Katan, despite looking younger, being actually like 20 years older than he is.
Okay, first off, no. Bo-Katan is not 20 years older than Boba. Boba was born somewhere around Attack of the Clones, and Bo-Katan was born probably around the Phantom Menace, I'd like to say. So Bo-Katan would be about 10 years older than him. And as for Boba Fett looking really old, well, that motherfucker has been through a lot. He's been living in the desert from what we can see, no headgear. So the sun doesn't obviously fuck him up. He has a lot of scars from being in the Sarlacc. So he'd obviously look much more aged. Not because he actually is older, but simply because of what he's been through.
Anyway, Mando decides to fly away and leave his rescuers behind because he still distrusts them immensely. Like I said, this scene drives home just how indoctrinated he has become by the cult that raised him. He leaves the ship while Bo-Katan and her company destroy the evidence of their crimes by blowing the ship sky high. Now, what happens next doesn't really make much sense, but for some reason, late at night, Mando is again doing something incredibly stupid, just wandering aimlessly at night with Baby Yoda in plain sight.
Yeah, well, where else was he supposed to go? Was he supposed to go back to his ship? Well, he couldn't, because it was currently under repairs by that Mon Calamari guy.
He is confronted by the kin of his attacker, who somehow knows his brother is dead, and I'm willing to give the show the benefit of the doubt and just say his brother knew by seeing the exploding ship off in the distance. Anyway, somehow he finds Mando, and he hasn't alerted the Mon Calamari authorities. Not a big deal if he's simply after some vigilante justice, but he tells Mando that he and his men are going to kill Baby Yoda, and predictably, Bo-Katan's party shows up and saves Mando yet again before taking him for a drink and propositioning him for his service in exchange for information about the Jedi. Bo-Katan tells Mando why her group is in Trask, and this part kind of confused me, so I'm just going to let it play.
Trask is a black market port. They're staging weapons that have been bought and sold with the plunderers of our planet. We're seizing those weapons and using them to retake our homeworld.
What does she mean exactly by this? Staging weapons that have been bought and sold with the plunders of Mandalore. Does that mean the staged weapons in question aren't illegal, but the Mandalorian weapons are?
I'll agree. I think this was weirdly worded, as I always just saw this as weapons were taken from Mandalore, and they are seizing or taking the weapons back that they're going to use to take back their home world.
That doesn't make much sense to me. It would have made more sense if she said Empire loyalists were simply taking possession of the Mandalorian weapons from smugglers or pirates that made it from Mandalore through New Republic space to Trask, where those weapons are then transported into Empire hands. If that's what she meant, then it was worded in a piss-poor manner. Okay, bottom line. Empire has Mandalorian weapons, Bo-Katan wants those weapons back, so she and the rest of the Mandalorians can retake their homeworld and re-establish their society. And I like the bit of information we get from Mando when he urges them not to try it. Mandalore is cursed, he says. There's no going back. It is an uninhabitable, hostile place that not even the Empire could control, according to him. Bo-Katan, however, tells him that those stories are greatly exaggerated. Simple Empire propaganda used to discourage Mandalorians from unifying, because a unified Mandalore is a threat to be reckoned with. Look, sometimes you gotta take the good with the bad, and I really liked how much this episode allows the audience to learn about the Mandalorians, their factions, and their history. I certainly hope we get more of it in the future. Anyway, Bo-Katan then walks Mando through their plan to heist the weapons. The Empire is on high alert while their transport ship is docked. Once they're in the air, on the ascension path out of the atmosphere, that's when they will be more vulnerable and that's when they will strike. It's kind of weird that spaceships need to get a minimum safe distance from the spaceport and follow a trajected flight path before ascending out of the atmosphere, but okay. To be fair, it is a massive vessel, and in the prequels and original trilogy, we didn't see much more than one-man fighters ascend into the atmosphere, with the exception of Trade Federation starships and Attack of the Clones. But to be fair again, they were already in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, Mando does the logical thing and asks, how much resistance will they encounter? And then they tell him it should be no more than one full squad of troopers, and then the male Mandalorian adds, and they can't even hit the side of a bantha. Okay, look, Disney. It's only funny when we shit on the stormtroopers for being useless at aiming. It's a meta joke that is making fun of a well-known Star Wars inconsistency that trained Empire soldiers can't make their shots. When we meme that stuff, that's fine. But when you start having characters openly mock the stormtroopers for being useless, that is very damaging to your product. If the show is self-aware that stormtroopers suck, why the hell would the audience have any tension whatsoever when they are around? Seriously, who thought that line was a good idea? Fire them immediately? Also, it's not the first time you did it. In episodes 7 and 8 of Season 1, I was equally pissed off because of how you treated the stormtroopers. Stop treating your main bad guys like they are jokes. Jesus Christ.
Okay, I kind of get what your argument in here is, and I kind of get your point, but let me ask you this. From the perspective of the characters, how could they not make fun of it? I mean, they've fought these stormtroopers so much, they've clearly put assaults against these guys, and they even fight stormtroopers in the Clone Wars, or Rebels, I mean, TV show. I mean, so there's a certain point where they would eventually notice their aiming. Now, as for the humor in episode 8 of season 1, I will say that does kind of piss me off. At first I liked it because I thought it was funny, but once I started to think about it, it really did piss me off, but I think it works here. It also kind of shows that they're underestimating their enemy, as they've never gotten that far into the ship, from what I think at least, they've never gotten that far unless maybe stealing a few weapons, as they say that they have been infiltrating that place every now and then, and it got to the point where they had to scan for life forms. But they clearly were underestimating the enemy, because near the end of that whole fight scene, they get trapped in a hallway where Din Djarin has to make a run for it and just throw a bunch of grenades while running out, getting shot continuously.
Anyway, finally, Mando makes a good decision and leaves Baby Yoda with the fish couple until he returns from the mission. Yay, logical thinking by the protagonist. Can we get more of that, please? I want to see it. The assault on the Empire ship was very entertaining. It played out much like one would expect from entering the second half of a supremacy match in Star Wars Battlefront 2. A tight corridor shooter with not much room to maneuver, which unfortunately takes away the advantage of the Mandalorians' jetpacks, but they are still essentially juggernauts in Beskar armor. So the skirmishes inside the Empire starship are still relatively easy for them to progress through. What keeps the scene tension-fueled, however, despite the fact that they are mowing down cannon fodder, is the fact that it's a race against the clock. Bo-Katan and Mando have to make it to the cargo hold and retrieve the weapons before the ship reaches a certain altitude to make a jump to light speed and rendezvous with an Empire fleet. It's only after they take the cargo hold that Bo-Katan tells Mando what the real plan was, and that it was in fact to take the entire ship, not just the cargo. She then reveals her intentions are a bit more personal. She's not just trying to restore Mandalore's society. She wants to rule it as its leader. And she's also there to retrieve a family heirloom. That's revealed a bit soon after. With this twist, we also find out why this episode is called The Heiress. And without explicitly telling the audience, although I hope it's flushed out a bit later, it provides the audience enough clues to kind of infer that Bo-Katan is actually tied to the royal lineage of Mandalore, as we previously discussed. Moments later, Gus from Breaking Bad contacts the commanding officer of the ship and asks for a report on the situation. Upon learning that the ship is essentially a lost cause, he orders the officer to follow protocol and deny the Empire's assets to the intruders by crashing the ship. He also adds the phrase, "Long live the Empire." Now, I actually love this. It's about time they start portraying the Empire and its loyalists in this case with the same competence and ruthlessness that they were given in the original trilogy. Yes, it's annoying how they treat the stormtroopers like a joke, I know. But at least this makes sense. Destroy the assets, deny the hijackers. I think terminating the pilots was a bit much, but I'm pretty sure it's a means of denying the enemy valuable information, especially since we see the officer bite down on a very heavy-handed, on-the-nose Nazi German cyanide capsule reference, so Bo-Katan couldn't torture him for information. And because it's Star Wars, they decided to turn it into an electrocution capsule because sci-fi, I guess. Look, the Empire was always referencing Nazis, even back in the original trilogy, okay? And yes, it's about as heavy-handed as a salute from Force Awakens, but at the very least it was practically utilized and actually made sense.
Y'all agree, it was about as subtle as the themes in Ralph Breaks the Internet. And if you're curious, not subtle at all.
Before the officer kills himself, Bo-Katan makes it clear that she's after the Dark Saber, the weapon that was briefly displayed by Gus from Breaking Bad in the Mandalorian Season 1 finale episode. If you've seen Season 2 of The Clone Wars, you know that the Dark Saber is of significant cultural value to the Mandalore society. Hopefully the show will go into greater depth as to the significance of the weapon, and not be as presumptuous as to think every single Star Wars fan bothered to watch The Clone Wars, or Rebels for that matter.
I mean, do you want a huge exposition dump from that to happen? I'll agree, sometimes it's a bit annoying, especially in the first season and Darth Maul's return in Solo. They should have definitely given a little context, but in this episode they give us a little bit to know about Bo-Katan, especially with the whole deal of the Darksaber. And she says it was once hers, and also she basically implied that she was a previous ruler of Mandalore. So I think that's enough, and that's all we need to know for the context of this episode. And the Clone Wars helps us know more about her, but it's not needed for the specific plot of this, except obviously the ruling of Mandalore, which this episode heavily implies.
Anyway, the crash is averted, and the mission is complete. True to her word, Bo-Katan tells Mando where he can take the Foundling, and where he can find the one and only Jedi Master Ahsoka Tano.
Yay, he said the thing. He said the thing.
Oh, now we getting somewhere.
This has literally nothing to do with the video, but I just realized that our donkey, or whatever the hell his name is, and Mushu from Mulan, played by the same character. This just made me realize that, and because they sound so similar, are they played by like the same actor or something? I swear they are.
Yay, we're finally moving on with the story. It took us 3 pissing episodes of mostly wasted time to get here, not to mention the almost entire waste of time that was Season 1. And guys, seriously, I love Ahsoka as much as the next person. I do, truly, but tone it down. We got a name drop. A name drop that was teased by the Season 2 leaks months ago. We all knew it was heading in this direction, but it took them 11 whole episodes to get there. And much like the Boba Fett reveal, I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to make us wait. Probably till the last episode for there to be an actual payoff to this. While they bogged down the show with 3 more filler episodes of meaningless crap. I know I'm being pessimistic, and yeah, that's a bold prediction on my part, but at this point, can you blame me, given what we've seen in the past? But anyway, what I'm trying to say is just temper your expectations, please.
I'll agree. Some people went a bit too crazy on it, and again, most people are excited for the next episodes, not necessarily why they say the episode's great. And some people stupidly thought that we were going to get in episode 4, which, from the way the show's structured, they were obviously going to have it wait, because I always thought it was going to be episode 5, because that was the one Dave Filoni was directing, and from what I can tell, it seems it will be going in that direction, because, again, that's the episode Dave Filoni's directing. However, I saw some people on Twitter genuinely complaining about episode 4, and saying that it's bad because it didn't have Ahsoka in it, which I always felt like that was just them kind of that they kind of fucked it up for themselves by having those expectations.
And lastly, Mando retrieves Baby Yoda from the fish couple, says his farewells, and makes his way to Ahsoka's destination. And then the episode is over. Again, not a terrible episode, and not an, oh my god, what a totally fantabulous fucking episode either.
No, it's definitely a, oh my god, what a totally fantabulous fucking episode.
It was okay. It was perfectly adequate. It has its moments of bad, but it also had considerable amounts of good. But nothing really great or outstanding. Again, I think this was certainly an improvement over the last 2 episodes. As much as you guys think I want the show to be bad, I don't. I'm actually looking forward to the next episode. I just hope it's longer, has more story to tell, and actually makes more sense. I'm just tampering my expectations, as should you. But do what you want, I suppose. And yeah, guys, that's my review of Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3.
Well, it's the end of his video, and I guess it's the end of mine now. Thank you guys for watching my response to Anomaly Inc. If you did disagree with anything, or if you think I misunderstood anything, then please do let me know in the comments below. Okay, I'll put up the clip in full context of Anomaly Inc's comment about my video. Here's the time code because I gotta give channel information. Okay, now as for my channel, well, I do have a bit to say about this, as I did say at the start of the video. The 1 year anniversary of my YouTube channel is gonna be coming up soon, and for that video I will be uploading how 2020 has been for me as a year for the YouTube channel, and kind of some other stuff. And I will try to upload more that week. That way I can, kind of as a celebration of reaching this 1 year goal, or not necessarily a goal, but you get what I mean. Anyways, yeah, I will have that video up soon, and now I will play you guys the clip of Anomaly Inc. bringing up my response.
I didn't respond, actually. We hate people. Are you in the chat? He's a follower of mine. He's this kid who's he's a nice guy. He's a cool dude. He's like 13 or something. He made a video responding to my Battlefront 2 review, right? Now, he doesn't really have any followers. He's not, influential like Cosmonaut. But he brings up Battlefront 2, and he does it in a respectful manner. And he's responding to me, right? Now, I didn't agree with a lot of what he had to say. I did agree with some stuff. All right. So what I did was I commented on it, and I was like, "Hey, I'm glad to see we agree on this. I'm glad that you corrected me here. I did make a couple mistakes, just not very big ones, but just stuff that I wouldn't have known without playing for as long as the Battlefront 2 vets did, because there was a couple things in the timeline of updates that I got a bit off, because again I was playing the finished version. But he corrected me on that stuff, and I was like, "Look, dude, I appreciate the response. You made a couple good points. I think you misunderstood a couple of things I was trying to say as well. But all in all, that was a cool vid, and I enjoyed watching it. Now, if I was disgruntled with the video, I would respond to it. But I really just, but I wasn't, because he was respectful, and he did have some stuff to say, and I was like, okay, cool. That's the sort of shit I'd respond to. If I responded to, let's say, this guy actually had some decent points and he delivered it in the same manner, I would absolutely respond to it. But he's just not worth it. So I was kind of baffled why EFAP was bothering, really. But yeah, we hate people. I appreciate the response, man. If you're in the chat, I enjoyed watching that video. Also, why Minecraft? He was playing Minecraft the whole time. I was like, why Minecraft? What do you see in that game? I don't get it.
It's still pretty popular.
It's still ridiculously popular. I have no idea. I mean, again, everyone can like what they like. I just don't get it. Minecraft never clicked with me. I've never touched it. But yeah, I don't know. It was odd. I was like, but again, I'm glad he enjoys it. I'm glad everyone else who plays Minecraft enjoys it. Seeing Angle, I think I mentioned Angel, lose her shit is my second favorite thing to watch. Only beaten out by watching Noms lose his shit. Well, thank you. And see, this we hate people. This guy's he's just a kid. who has opinions online. He's been following me for a while. He made a video responding to my Battlefront 2 video, Angel. I don't know if you heard that video before. Yeah. I watched it. I just typed in I'll search for myself on sometimes just to see if what's happening, if people are mentioning me and stuff like that. Just out of curiosity, and I come across this video, and it was in very good taste. I didn't agree with a lot of it, and I think he misunderstood a lot of what I meant. I understood where it was coming from. I was like, dude, I respect what you have to say. I think you just misunderstood me when I said this. That's all. And he actually had some decent points. And if I actually felt like I'm fine to just let the video sit there because I liked it. I told him I enjoyed watching it, but it's not something I wouldn't do an AI core on it because again I thought the video was in good taste. I didn't think it was really worth responding to because it wasn't it wasn't trying to. I didn't really have to respond to too much. If that makes sense. He was just correcting me on stuff that I just made little mistakes on, and that's perfectly fine. Whereas if Adam was actually trying to discredit me and he made some good points that I felt I wouldn't have to respond to, I'd absolutely do it if I thought the video was in good taste. But he's not doing that.
Alright, so, bye.